In the wide, dusty plains of Elysium Valley, a place far from the bustling colonies, the wind howled, carrying the dry earth across the endless horizon. The small human settlement here had long since learned to live without much help from the outside world. It was a place for survivors, a place where the strong thrived, and the weak disappeared quickly. Ranching was hard work, but the land was rich and the settlers were tough. Adam West was one of those tough settlers. He had inherited the land from his parents and had been working it alone ever since. His life was simple, just the way he liked it. He spent most of his days tending to his cattle, fixing fences and keeping watch over the property. The quiet, wide-open spaces were peaceful. There was something about the silence of the valley that made him feel at home. He didn't need much, just the land, his animals, and the occasional company of a few neighbors. He didn't expect anything more. But all of that changed one evening when a strange ship descended from the sky. It was a large ship, battered and scarred from what seemed like years of wear. As it cut through the thick clouds, the noise of the engines echoed across the valley. The ship hovered above the ranch for a moment, then landed with a loud thud, kicking up dirt and dust. Adam watched from the window of his small cabin, his curiosity piqued. There were no scheduled arrivals from any of the nearby spaceports, and the ship's arrival wasn't a good sign. Something was wrong. He grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. The wind had died down, leaving the air still and heavy. He squinted into the fading light, seeing a large figure emerge from the ship's hatch, a woman, and not just any woman, but a giant, towering figure who seemed to move with purpose despite the heavy armor she wore. The woman was enormous, at least twice Adam's height, and her figure was covered in weathered, battle-worn armor, the kind of gear used by soldiers in war. She limped as she made her way toward him, her steps heavy, her shoulders broad. There was something about the way she moved that suggested strength but also pain. Adam's hand went instinctively to his belt, where he carried a plasma pistol for emergencies. But there was no need for it. She wasn't here to fight. She was clearly hurt. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with exhaustion. She reached his porch, paused for a moment, then collapsed onto the ground with a heavy sigh. "Are you okay?" Adam asked, his voice low but steady. The giant woman didn't answer at first. She just lay there, her chest rising and falling with each breath. It was clear that she had been through a lot. After a few moments, she raised her head and looked at him. "I need help," she said weakly, her voice rough as though she hadn't spoken in days. "Please," Adam hesitated. He didn't know this woman, but something in her eyes told him she wasn't a threat. She wasn't here to rob him or cause harm. She was just someone in need, like so many people who pass through the valley. "You can rest here," Adam said finally, his voice soft but firm. "Come inside. I'll get you some water." The woman nodded slightly, struggling to push herself up. Adam stepped forward and helped her into the cabin, supporting her weight as they walked slowly inside. The giant widow was heavier than Adam had expected, but he didn't mind. He had seen many people, big and small, come and go, but something about this woman felt different. She carried the weight of something deep within her, something he couldn't quite understand. Inside, Adam sat her down in a chair by the hearth. The fire was already low, but he quickly added more wood and the flames flickered to life. He moved to the small kitchen area and poured a cup of water from a ceramic jug, offering it to her. She took the cup with shaking hands, and for a moment, she just stared at it, as if unsure what to do with it. Then she drank slowly, her eyes closing as the cool water slid down her throat. "Thank you," she whispered when she finished. "I didn't think anyone would help." Adam sat down across from her. "It's no trouble. What happened to you? Where did you come from?" The woman hesitated, looking down at the floor as if gathering her thoughts. When she spoke again, her voice was filled with sorrow. "I was part of a colony," she said quietly, "a peaceful place. But war came. We were attacked by invaders. I lost my husband in the fight. The rest of my people, they're all gone now." Adam felt a pang of sympathy for her. Losing a loved one was a pain he knew all too well. He had lost family over the years, first his parents to a land accident and later a few good friends in the hard days of settlement building. But this woman's loss seemed so much larger, so much deeper. "I'm sorry," Adam said softly. The giant widow shook her head. "There's no need for pity. I don't want pity, I just—" She trailed off, her eyes clouding over as though the weight of her grief was pulling her under. Adam didn't know how to comfort her. Words seemed empty in the face of such loss. But he didn't need to speak. He just sat there in silence, letting her be. The hours passed in quiet companionship. The fire crackled and popped in the hearth as they sat together, each lost in their own thoughts. Adam found himself watching her more than he meant to. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her size, her strength, and her sorrow all blended into something he couldn't quite place. It was a strange mix, intimidating and yet so vulnerable. "I can't live without a man," she suddenly said, breaking the silence. Her voice was steady, but the words were heavy. "I was never meant to be alone." Adam looked at her, surprised by the raw honesty in her words. She wasn't looking for sympathy. She was simply stating a truth she had lived with for so long. "I didn't choose this life," she continued. "The war, the loneliness, it's too much. I thought I could survive it, but I can't. Not without someone to stand beside me." Her eyes met his, and for a moment there was a quiet understanding between them. Neither of them had the answers, but in this moment they didn't need to. There was something about the connection that made the silence between them feel comforting. Adam opened his mouth to say something, but the words caught in his throat. He didn't know how to offer the comfort she needed. Instead, he simply nodded, his hand resting on the table. As the night wore on, they spoke little more. The fire burned low, and outside the valley lay quiet under the stars. Adam's thoughts were tangled, unsure of what to make of this strange woman who had arrived at his doorstep. In the stillness, he wondered what the morning would bring. Would she stay? Would she leave? And if she stayed, what would that mean for both of them? The eerie sound grew louder, echoing across the valley. Adam's heart raced as he quickly turned away from the window and moved toward the door. The strange, shadowy figures were still out there, moving quickly across the horizon, their shapes becoming clearer in the dim light. They weren't human. Adam's pulse quickened. Whatever they weren't friendly. The giant widow who had been sitting by the fire immediately stood up, her towering form casting a long shadow on the cabin walls. Her hand instinctively reached for a weapon hidden beneath her armor, but then she froze. "Who are they?" Adam asked, his voice tight with concern. He didn't want to show fear, but the situation felt too dangerous. "They are the raiders," she said, her voice grim. "The same ones who destroyed my colony. I should have known they'd find me." Adam felt his stomach tighten. These raiders were not the kind of people you could reason with. They were ruthless, taking what they wanted and leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. He had heard rumors of such groups, but he had never faced them up close. "You have to leave," Adam said urgently, moving toward the door. "They'll take you. We need to get you out of here before they arrive." But Lyra, the giant widow, shook her head. "No, I'm not running anymore. I've run long enough. I'm staying, and I'll fight them if I have to." Adam felt a sense of determination rise in his chest. He had no idea what he was up against, but he couldn't let this woman, this stranger who had come into his life so suddenly, face it alone. He had to help her. He didn't know why, but something in her eyes told him that if he didn't stand by her now, he would regret it for the rest of his life. "Then we fight," Adam said firmly, walking toward his own weapons cabinet. He pulled out a rifle, checking the charge before handing it to her. "You take the high ground, I'll cover the front." Lyra nodded, accepting the weapon with a steady hand. For the first time since she arrived, Adam saw something new in her, an unshakable strength. She had been lost, vulnerable, and broken when she arrived, but now she was ready. Ready to fight, ready to protect what was hers. The sound of the raiders grew louder. Adam could hear the rumble of their ships, their engines buzzing like angry insects. It was only a matter of time before they reached the ranch. "Stay close," Lyra said, her voice calm but filled with an edge of command. "I won't let them take me again." As the raiders' ships began to appear on the horizon, their dark silhouettes blocking out the stars, Adam and Lyra moved swiftly to the high ground above the ranch. It was a small hill, but it offered a perfect vantage point of the valley below. Adam could see the lights of the raiders' ships flashing as they landed, their engines spitting fire as they touched down on the rocky ground. Lyra's hand tightened on the weapon, her eyes narrowing. She was ready. Adam's heart pounded in his chest as he scanned the horizon, looking for any sign of movement. The raiders would come from the west, where the valley was narrowest. They would have to pass through the open ground, and that was where they'd be vulnerable. "Remember," Lyra said softly, "we only have one chance at this." Adam nodded, his eyes focused. He had no idea what the next few minutes would bring. But he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let these raiders take Lyra. Not now. Not ever. The first of the raiders appeared, their tall, thin figures moving out of the shadows of their ship. They were armed, their weapons shining in the starlight. Lyra shifted slightly, her muscles rippling under her armor as she prepared to spring into action. "Ready," she whispered. Adam raised his rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. The blast echoed through the night, alerting the raiders to their presence. The raiders paused, scanning the darkness. Lyra didn't wait. She moved with the speed of a predator, charging down the hill toward the raiders, her massive form a blur in the night. Adam fired again, this time aiming for the closest raider. His shot hit its mark, the raider stumbling backward as the blast knocked him off his feet. Lyra's massive fists were already in motion. She swung with incredible force, knocking one of the raiders off his feet with a single blow. The others scrambled to respond, but they were no match for her strength. She was a giant among them, and every punch, every kick sent them flying. Adam stayed on the high ground, covering her from behind, picking off the raiders who dared to get too close. The battle raged on for what felt like hours, but in truth, it was only minutes. Lyra's strength and Adam's precise shots quickly turned the tide in their favor. The raiders, who had come expecting an easy victory, were being overpowered. One by one, they fell. The sound of the battle was deafening, but it was soon replaced by the eerie silence of victory. Adam wiped the sweat from his brow, his hands shaking with adrenaline. His heart still pounded in his chest, but he could hardly believe what he had just witnessed. Lyra had fought with the power of 100 men. As the last raider fell, Lyra stood tall, breathing heavily but unharmed. Her armor was dented, her hair wild, but there was a fire in her eyes that had not been there before. She had faced her past, and she had won. Adam approached her slowly, his rifle still in hand. "Is it over?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her face somber. "For now, but there will always be more of them. This fight doesn't end here." Adam looked out over the valley, the stars now shining brightly above them. He knew she was right. The raiders would come again, but for tonight they had won. They had proven that they could face anything together. "We'll be ready," Adam said firmly. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time he wasn't afraid. Lyra turned to him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Thank you," she said simply. "I didn't think I could do this alone." Adam smiled back, his heart full. "You weren't alone," he said. "Not anymore." The two of them stood together, looking out over the valley. The danger had passed for now, but Adam knew that something had changed. Lyra had found a new strength in herself, and he had found something in her too. They were no longer strangers. They were partners, two people who had survived against all odds and who would face whatever came next together.